vlogs, video recording, those are something different than sitting down and writing in a journal or typing out essays, because those allow you to script the perfect word choices. Oop, backspace, correct that. That's an entirely different way of demonstrating your thoughts than extemporaneous speaking. Being able to sit down, have a conversation from stream of conscious thought, being able to pull those things out of memory and actually summarize them well, convincingly, that's a different thing than being able to spend however long you want, hours at a time, choosing the exact nouns and adjectives and everything like that to get those thoughts portrayed as best as humanly possible. That's not the same as having a live conversation with somebody that is going to be important in your life. So articulation, especially verbal, out loud, especially off the cuff, aka extemporaneously, that is a highly, highly valuable skill.
The destruction of human freedom. But like every one of the superstates that preceded it, it has one iron rule. Logic is an enemy and truth is a menace.
Good afternoon and welcome to Beholden To Truth. It is your humble host, Joshua, here with you for another one of our happy hour sessions outside of the gym, preparing for a chest day, sipping our pre-workout, getting caffeinated. Got to get our mind right before we go in there and make our physical gains. Got a couple things on my mind that I'm eager to share with you guys today. One of them is keeping you apprised of the personal difficulties of running a platform like this while trying to simply live. Turns out it's a little difficult. And another one is a meeting that I had in the gym a couple of days ago that I wanted to share with you guys. Just some general life advice, and from the last 11 years of my fitness journey, some uncle wisdom, some Josh the influencer wisdom that I can share with you guys that will hopefully be helpful to you. It was some stuff that I heard over a decade ago that shone a light on what separates the 1% from the 99%, but also awareing you to some of the challenges that are going to arise anytime you try to do something difficult or substantial, meaningful, special in your life. Anytime you try to separate yourself from the chaff, this is inevitably going to happen. So we're going to get into that subject as well. But to just first give you guys an update on my situation and how it relates to our situation, white Christian America, simply trying to live and conserve what made this country successful for its first 350 years. As you guys may know, if you've been following the platform for a while, a few months ago, I brought on my single one employee that I have ever had to try to help me with some social media management, video editing, stuff like that. And that employee ended up being a complete Judas, betrayer, who went on to do many deceptive and dishonest, malicious things to me. They turned over my social media content to my employer, got me fired from my job. They stole from my donors for this platform. They went around spreading lies about me in my city, lying to my followers, trying to reach out to my donors to get them to stop supporting my platform. Complete disaster. This guy is like one of the worst people I've ever met in my life. But that's all in the past now. But we are trying to put together some of the pieces after that wreckage. And part of that is finding a new job, a new 9-to-5. And I know that God will provide. I'm not particularly worried about it, but it has been a couple of months in the job search. And this is just the way it goes, especially when you get into a later stage in your career. You've climbed the ladder a good bit. Those jobs aren't a dime a dozen, and you have to be patient, go through a lot of interviews, put out a lot of applications, and it'll come. That happens. But something is a little different this day and age when it comes to this process of trying to find a new job that I wanted to share with you guys. I've had this happen a couple times in the last month. So I go and send out usually 25 to 50 applications a week. And so if you do the quick math on that, I've probably sent out a couple hundred applications over the last month. And the contact or hit rate for those is pretty low. It's like single-digit percentages. You get a follow-up either from a recruiter or the internal HR hiring department on a single-digit percentage of those. So you send out 100 applications, you might get one call. which might sound like discouraging odds, but this is just my experience based on the last 10 years. This is just the way it is. It's a very competitive marketplace out there. You have to stay positive. You can't take this as a reflection of your personal abilities or your self-worth or anything like that. You just got to stay positive. Do what is within your own control, which is send out the applications and prepare for the interviews. So that's what I've been doing, over the last couple of months, and I've had a few callbacks. Now, the callbacks, though, this is where things are starting to change in the age of AI. And I want to talk through a specific new circumstance that I found myself put in that I really don't like. I get first contacted by a recruiter, and this individual is an Indian, of course. And this kind of is just the default nowadays. It seems like almost all recruiting firms are using offshoring recruiters to make that first contact with prospective employees. So the Indian calls me, and I can barely understand his accent, and I'm trying to answer his questions as best as I can, just general summaries of my career. And this is like the very first introductory conversation. This isn't an interview, so to speak. This is just, hey, we know that you're out there looking for jobs. We have this potential job or contract available. We see it matches your job title. We think some of your experience looks interesting. Would you be interested in interviewing for this job? And, here's the pay rate. Does that meet what you're expecting? And so on. This isn't an interview with the actual hiring manager or anybody at the company. This is a third party who works as a middleman for the company to find employees. And so they're hiring these Indians to make these first introductory calls to get people into the pipeline of people to interview. So with the language barrier alone, it's pretty difficult, okay? They say whatever they're going to say about the job. This is the business that it's at. These are the qualifications we're looking for, education, career background, so on and so forth. And you're like hearing every fourth or fifth word in terms of actually understanding what they're saying. A lot of times it's actually cutting in and out because they're calling from Bangladesh or something like that. And so just getting through the first introduction to this job opening is already somewhat difficult due to the language barrier. Even more problematic, though, is that they ask you, do you have experience in XYZ? Are you accustomed to doing this thing? Can you tell me about a time when you did this thing? And it's not because they have the control to determine whether or not to hire you. They're just trying to figure out if you meet the qualifications they've been given, the bullet points they have been given by the company to try to catch that first wave or the first net of prospects. And so, of course, I am on the other end of that conversation and I'm articulating my previous experience. And it's always extremely obvious because I'm an articulate guy. I can talk extemporaneously about virtually any subject, but especially what I've been working on for the last 10 plus years of my life. Half a dozen companies, projects that have lasted quarters, years, I'm good at that kind of thing. And so when I provide these very eloquent, long answers to the questions of, are you qualified in this way or that way? If I was talking to some English-speaking person, preferably a white person, preferably an American, there would be some accumulation of rapport and understanding there, right? There would be some jokes. There would be some talks about what part of the country you're in. Oh, I've been to Alabama too. Oh, I used to live over there. Oh, I have family over there. None of that happens. There is no chemistry whatsoever. There's no rapport whatsoever with an Indian individual making $9 an hour in Bangladesh. Okay, they don't relate to you at all as an American, much less as a resident of a single city or state. Most of them haven't even heard of the companies that they're representing and searching for employees for. They barely even know what these companies do. They're literally just following a script. And so when you make apples and oranges conversation, say, well, I haven't worked for this company, but I work for one of their direct competitors who is in the same industry, doing the same work. They can't connect those dots and they can't say, oh, that sounds like very valuable experience. I should probably emphasize that when I go back to the employer and say, hey, I found a good candidate for you. They worked at one of the direct competitors. They worked on a similar project. They have these sets of skills that I know would be valuable to you. He had a very vibrant personality. He's very charismatic. He's well-spoken. He's confident. None of that comes through when you're talking to an Indian overseas. It's just the way it is. So that's your very first opportunity at possibly getting an interview with the people who actually make decisions, is through a language barrier with somebody who has no relation, no chemistry, no rapport, no care whatsoever about you and your background.
Meeting the people that you actually want to meet this day and age is basically impossible. Well, I have a solution to these problems. You're wearing your anti-Zog merchandise, that cutie from across the gym. She knows what the Zog is. She knows that Save Europa is code for white genocide. Or if it's somebody of the same gender, boom, you just got yourself a new best friend. This is your opportunity. Everybody's always complaining about how hard it is to find people who know what's really going on. Well, this is it. This is how you broadcast those beliefs to the world.
If you are lucky enough for you to communicate well enough with this individual who barely understands English, who isn't taking articulate notes about everything that you're saying, and you actually get through that process, here's the next fun stage where things have changed in the job market. This happened to me last week, and it also happened a couple weeks before that. I'm in the middle of doing something at my house. I'm like cooking dinner or something like that, in the middle of an activity. And I get a call from a unrecognized number. And I know that I need to respond to all of these calls because you never know who it might be when you're looking for a job. And so I pick it up and it says, with a robotic female voice, it's obviously a IVR, intelligent voice response system, that says, "Hi, I represent such and such consulting. I would like to talk to you about the application you applied for. Can you now answer some questions about your background?" And so it's like you are literally on the spot that second, no pre-scheduled interview, nothing like that. Your resume is not in front of you. Your notes aren't in front of you. At any moment's notice during whatever day, you're expected to answer a unrecognized number and provide immediately articulate responses on your entire career background. Very detailed too, by the way. You know, talk about a project that you worked on there where you had, and I don't want to go too much into the details of the questions they would ask me because that's personal stuff and I don't need people trying to dig up what I do for a living and get me fired from my job. It's already happened, and it's been attempted to happen 2 or 3 times before it successfully happened recently. But the point being that it's the same situation whether it's a foreign Indian immigrant just doing that first initial conversation to get you in front of an actual real interview with detailed questions. You get to that stage, it's an artificial intelligence-driven voice response system where, once again, there is no room for determining character and personality and chemistry because it's not another human being. They can't hear the exuberance in your voice, the excitement, the confidence. When you provide these 3-minute long answers, fully articulating with multiple practical examples, answering the questions that they asked, the response is an AI-populated summary of, "Oh, okay, it sounds like you have good experience related to this. Next question." And it just jumps to the next one. And so it's completely impersonal. That's probably the best word to use for both interactions. There is no human engagement whatsoever to get you in front of people who actually make decisions in terms of hiring you for your career. The recruiters are not even American. They barely speak English. You get to the interview stage. The interview is a robot that doesn't care what cities you've lived in, that doesn't care that you have a wife or kids, doesn't care about your goals, doesn't care anything about your character as a human being. It's just using AI, large language models, to summarize what you say back to the HR department. It's going to take everything you said, run it through a recording, translate the bullet points, put it in somebody's email. They'll skim it. They'll have no idea what you're like as an actual person, how funny you are, how relatable you are, what kind of connection points you might have to them that would make it obvious that you can build rapport with people and relate to people who are not like you or who are like you. There's just nothing personal about the whole process anymore. And it's just very depressing and it's very discouraging. So that's what I'm going through in terms of the job search. So keep praying for me. We got to just keep putting the applications out. And this is my advice to you guys in this age of AI screening. You get that unrecognized number phone call and you're in the middle of lunch, you're in the middle of a gym session. Seriously, you're expected to stop your gym session while you're breathing hard in the middle of a lift and be able to recite all of the details of your CV, your resume, at a moment's notice. I mean, when you've been working for decades for half a dozen or more employers, that's a lot of career history. I've worked on a lot of different things over time. And it's nice to have a refresher. It's nice to do some preparation before an interview, right? But you don't have that opportunity. You have to be ready at a moment's notice to deliver with high confidence, with high articulation, with high relevancy, everything you've ever done. No grace because it's a robot. There's no, let me pause and think about that. None of that. It's all, I asked you a question, you have 60 seconds to respond, you better do it well because we're moving on to the next question. Really don't like it. Not a fan at all. So that's a little annoying, but hey, this is the age we live in. I'm just giving you guys the heads up that if you're in the job market, especially in the corporate world, these are the challenges you're going to have to face. Be ready. I've always talked about how important articulation and confidence are in every facet of life. Having to explain your ideological, political, spiritual views, needing to be able to articulate your value in the economy. Even when you go out into the dating landscape, being able to stand on the values that you care about and be uncompromising. You have to be able to explain why you are the way you are, what you're looking for, what formed those beliefs and everything like that in order to compel people to engage with you on whatever level. If you want to have a theological debate, you need to be articulate. If you want to entertain that prospective husband, wife, whatever it may be, you need to be articulate. If you want to go into the job market and position yourself as a high value employee and demand a high wage, you need to be articulate. If you want to try to red pill people, your family, friend circles, church groups, whatever, you have to be articulate. And the only way you get to be articulate is through repetition, practice, research. Whether that's sitting down and doing video journals, you don't have to publish them, you don't have to do public vlogs, but just sit down and verbalize your thoughts. And by the way, vlogs, video recording, those are something different than sitting down and writing in a journal or typing out essays. Because those allow you to script the perfect word choices, backspace, correct that. That's an entirely different way of demonstrating your thoughts than extemporaneous speaking. Being able to sit down, have a conversation from stream of conscious thought, being able to pull those things out of memory and actually summarize them well, convincingly, that's a different thing than being able to spend however long you want, hours at a time, choosing the exact nouns and adjectives and everything like that to get those thoughts portrayed as best as humanly possible. That's not the same as having a live conversation with somebody that is going to be important in your life. So articulation, especially verbal, out loud articulation, especially off the cuff, aka extemporaneously, that is a highly, highly valuable skill. It's not necessarily public speaking that I'm talking about. You don't have to do these things in front of crowds of people. But when it comes to interviews and all those other situations that I talked about, the gift, the practice of articulation returns dividends in your life in every fashion. So practice. That's how I accumulated the ability to sit down in front of a camera and just go on for an hour about the things that I care about. I didn't just start vlogging one day. I sat down and made a commitment to record video journals, largely as a future investment for myself. So I could look back later on in a year, 5 years, however long, and see where I was in life, what I was valuing, what I was struggling with, what my stresses were, how I overcame them. That's very valuable just in your own private life. But as you do that over time, it probably took me 3 to 6 months of doing that privately before I was like, you know what? A lot of this content is just valuable. People appreciate authenticity. That's why podcasting has become the number one means of public information, is because podcasts are not scripted episodes. You might have a loose agenda of topics you're going to refer to, but as I said, these are unscripted. I don't have a teleprompter here, what I'm reading off of. And so these private video journals where I was just speaking to my future self prepared me to sit down and speak to other people without all the filler words of, and just like sitting there trying to figure out what to say next. I was not this way. People a lot of times misinterpret my character to think that I'm extroverted because I have these social media platforms with 100,000 plus followers, hundreds and hundreds of hours of content, full-length documentaries, interviews with people, live interviews. People think that I'm an extrovert because I can do those things. That's not true whatsoever. I am deeply introverted, but sitting down and simply pushing myself to become more articulate as I spoke aloud allowed me to sit down with other people and exchange ideas and put forth my values publicly. So I think that's something that I would always coach people toward, is to move from writing your journal and your thoughts and all that stuff in personal diaries. This day and age, we all have infinite cloud storage, okay? Don't come at me with that. Figure it out, okay? Buy a $100 10 terabyte hard drive or buy an iCloud subscription or whatever. Everybody has a camera, okay? Use your cell phone. Sit down, record your thoughts. This is going to help you in your job interviews. It's going to help your dating life. It's going to help your family life. It's going to help you in every facet, like I said. So just trust me on this one. Become articulate. It is absolutely invaluable in your life.
The few brave men who have actually tried to go out and do something about white genocide or talk about Jewish influence, the Zionist-occupied government, we all know that they get crucified, their careers get destroyed, and so we need to find ways to support each other. One of the ways that I have done that is by creating my Substack, where there are exclusive early access to documentaries, my weekly vlogs, there are ebooks there. There's even an opportunity to set up a one-on-one 30-minute Ask Me Anything if you'd like. All of the proceeds from my Substack, from my YouTube channel, from the merch gets reinvested in the platform. I use that to pay my employees. I use that to buy the equipment that I need, the cameras, the lights, the MacBook, all the books, all of the software, pay for marketing, everything else, but also it protects my literal life. So if you want to help out, please do head on to Substack, get yourself a subscription. Thank you. I appreciate it. America first and Christ is King.